Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bravery Behind the Brand podcast. And today I have with me Ruth Tsui, if I pronounced that correctly. Sue.
Is Choi.
Toy. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ruth
All right.
Toy. Oh, it's nothing worse than getting someone's name wrong, is there?
Oh, don't worry, it's not an easy surname.
And you're a group program design consultant, and I've not met many of those, so I'm looking forward to hearing a whole lot more about that. And before we get stuck in, we're going to ask you my three golden questions. So, do you have a favorite motivational song?
So my favorite motivational song is called On Top of the World by Imagine Dragons. And it's basically about how you go through lots of different trials and tribulations, but ultimately, if you kind of stick with it, you hit your dreams, you hit your aspirations. So yeah, that one.
I love that. That is going on the Spotify list. If anybody wants to know where it is, Bravery Behind the Brand on Spotify. And do you have a motivational quote?
Yes. So this motivational quote is on my vision board. It says, "You can't be the kid standing at the top of the water slide overthinking it. You have to go down the chute." And I don't know who said it. I don't know where it's come from, but I love it because I am a chronic overthinker.
Hey, I
And
love
it really makes it visual, like seeing that kid
that.
standing at the top of the water slide, not wanting to go down. It's like, well, actually, once you do it, it's really fun. So,
I, I would be that kid. I'd be that kid going, I've changed my mind.
yeah.
It's so funny. This podcast is a year old tomorrow. And what I love is I keep getting different songs and different quotes, and it's just the variety is huge. I love that. I've never heard that in my life, but I love it. And now I'm just being nosy. Do you read?
I do read not as much as I would like to. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, so reading is restricted in our house.
You just have to put it in when you can, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And have you got a favorite book or
Yeah, so my fate,
fiction?
I'm gonna get like it's a business book. I could have gone for like Lord of the Rings or something, but so it's called A Company of One by Paul Jarvis, and it's basically like challenging the notion that everybody wants to scale a business. And actually is scaling inherently desirable, or actually is a business that allows you the freedom to live the life that you want to live within a revenue goal that you want to hit enough for you. Like it's essentially building a lifestyle brand and not having, the big team and the big revenue goals and all of that stuff, but actually looking at sustainable success. Ensuring that you're delivering exceptional client value and, kind of keeping that impact at the heart of your business. And it really just being about a business that's for you. So yeah, that's my favorite business.
I like that. And I like that it's not about taking over the world and
Yeah,
recruiting hundreds of people here and there. Because I think people get a bit obsessed with growth and,
yeah,
where are you going to be in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And I mean, I don't have any aspirations to take over the world. I want something that I love, that suits me, that isn't going to keep me awake at night because I know the struggles of worrying about a team that can
yeah.
keep you awake at night. But I quite like that. Build something that's sustainable for you, that absolutely suits you. And what about, I read over the weekend, is it Alec Hermosi? I was reading one of his books and I was like, oh,
Oh
that's
yes.
interesting. Slant on things. He's got a
Yeah,
very easy way of breaking things down. But
yeah.
what about fiction? Do you like, you mentioned, was it Lord of the Rings? Is that kind
Yeah, I
of
like
genre?
sci-fi and fantasy books. So
Yeah.
it's
Completely
a bit
safe.
more niche.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the same. You just have to if you get into something like that, it just takes you out of your normal world, doesn't it? So you
Yeah,
haven't got any room to
absolutely.
be distracted. Oh no, that's fabulous. Thank you for those. So now on to you and your business. So who, why, what inspired you to start it? And tell me a little bit more about your group program design.
So, group program design is primarily around ensuring that there is kind of a client and delivery fit. So, making sure that we really know intimately who our clients are and then how to deliver our unique expertise in a way that helps them to achieve results. So, my background is in education and training, delivering workshops, group facilitation. So, it's bringing those skills into play in the online world where a lot of advice around growing groups is audience growth and lead generation and marketing, and it actually doesn't get as far as, and this is how we deliver the thing. Like, this is how we deliver on our promises and we make sure that we're giving what we say we're going to give. That kind of like over sexify your marketing, sell them what they want, not sell them what they need, not what they want, all of that kind of stuff. And really, for me, it's about bringing it back to the client and putting it back at that kind of client centric level where they actually get what they paid for. And for the person that's delivering it, because typically they're overgivers and people pleasers, my clients, is to stop them from going into overgiving to make up for either bad experiences they've had, bad experiences their clients have had, this self-doubt and lack of belief that they have in their own ability to deliver. So it's kind of marrying those two sides of the coin together and helping them to deliver a sustainable business model for them in a group
So
context.
interesting because you talk about experiences, and I think I'm just generalizing because we've all been on these courses or we've been on these memberships and we've had good experiences and bad experiences. And whatever those experiences were, we want to make them bigger and better. And you're right, maybe we over delivering people pleasers. And I had some good advice from someone, an amazing coach that I've worked with, and when she's talking about courses and things like that, she talks about not overwhelming your clients because they only need 20% of what it is. And that has stuck in my head. It's been the best advice I've ever had. But one of the things I noticed as well, people get very, and myself included, hung up on who our clients are. And that
Yes.
tends to stop people in their tracks. Do you have any advice on that, on sort of refining your client or and niching and sometimes people are very general about their client or they're not specific enough?
So my focus on ideal client work is quite different to what other people would look at. So I don't look at demographics at all. It's much more about their current skill level, their values, their perspectives, what time do they have? What other commitments do they have going on in their lives? Do they have the technological resources to be able to do what you're teaching them to do? Like, have they got the financial resources in order to, if you're doing, say, Facebook ads, to actually implement the things that you're suggesting? So for me, ideal client work is very, very different to the conventional business
I like
realm
that. I
of
like a
like
different
ideal
approach.
client
Yeah.
advice.
Uh-huh.
It's much more nitty-gritty and psychological in terms of understanding what makes them tick, what keeps them engaged, what's motivating them to invest in you, like what are they looking for, and not from we talk about pain points and desires, of course, in terms of marketing, but this is actually like what is going on in their heads that's really driving this desire. Because in group programs in particular, when we have clients who are choosing to invest, they're choosing to invest from intrinsic motivation. When you're delivering learning and development to teams, often it comes because it ticks a box on their performance management, and that is an extrinsic motivator that says, right, you've got this many CPD points that you need to have acquired by the end of the year. This is a gap in your professional development. You need to go on this training course to tick that box, and they have to participate because that's kind of their salary is tied to participating. So when we get into the realm of actually leveraging that intrinsic motivation, we have to know why. We have to understand their why so that we can deliver in the best way possible for them, to make sure that we keep them motivated. And we can use extrinsic motivators as a booster, but really it's about understanding their goals and then helping to keep them on track and accountable to achieving those goals.
Wow, it's just so interesting. But and what drove you to do this?
So I was in teaching, and well, prior to teaching, I was a business analyst. I worked on a CRM, customer relationship management system, and basically, I was the person that went as the go-between between the client who was using the system and the tech team who was building the system. So my whole job was around finding out what the users wanted, telling the tech team to build the thing, and then writing all the training materials to help the people use the tech tool. Um, I got bored after 3 years of being in an office, retrained to be a teacher, had a mental breakdown in 2017 and bought into a franchise business, which was just an utter disaster. I had no autonomy. I could see all these gaps and things that I would do differently, and I couldn't do it. The income that I was promised didn't really align with what was actually happening. And I negotiated an early release in the end from my contract, and then set up independently as an education consultant. So going into schools and nursery settings, training staff teams to deliver STEM education, which is science, tech, engineering, and maths,
Mhm.
to kind of 2-year-olds up to 12-year-olds.
Wow.
The pandemic hit,
Hmm.
so I couldn't keep going into schools and nursery settings because everything closed down. And that's when I was introduced to this like online world of like complete craziness. And one of the questions that you sent me beforehand was like, what was the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in business? And it was definitely going from delivering in person and delivering in a setting where I just felt really comfortable and at home.
Hmm.
I knew the language. I knew the way to kind of woo the administrator on the front desk, and get that meeting with a head teacher booked in. And I had all the lingo and the just that way to connect.
Hmm.
Everything I did was cold outreach, which when you come into the online world, you're like, that's the worst thing you can ever do.
Yeah.
Never send a cold DM. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
so we're
Depends on who
functioning
you
on a whole
talk to.
different plane here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it felt like landing on an alien planet,
Yeah.
really. It was, lead magnets and breadcrumbing and Facebook groups. And I was just like, what on earth is,
Yeah.
where
It
is
is.
this
It
going
is.
on?
You're absolutely right. If you've worked in that kind of public sector environment, the vocabulary is like another language, and I completely identify with what you're saying. You talked about having a foot in two camps there, so you learn how to bridge that gap, and working in that school environment, there's very specific ways of doing things, and you knew how to get past the gatekeeper. Then all of a sudden you find yourself in this online world, which many people did. And you're absolutely right, because I can remember it took me ages, and I mean ages, to get my head around what was a funnel.
Yeah,
I I couldn't work it out, and I couldn't. It was explained a few times, but it took one very, very clever lady to just tell me what it was. Well, tell a lot of people what it was in very simple terms, and I was like, is that all it is? Because I th imagined this very technical thing on a
yeah,
website that did this and it did that. But the language from public sector to private sector is completely different. And our
yeah,
approach to, because our work comes to us in the public
yes,
sector, whereas the private sector, you've got to go out and, you talked about the outreach, they're a bit more receptive in the public sector because they expect it. But
yes,
online and the DMs, and some people say you should do it, some people say you shouldn't do it. And there's kind of like this that someone needs to develop a handbook on etiquette because it's
yes,
just so different. But also navigating that as well. And I do personal branding. It depends on who that person is, if they can get away with it, if the personality shines through, and that takes a bit of time to kind of master. Oh, well, they can get away with it, but they couldn't. But it's completely alien. It is just
yeah,
another world. And lead magnets, to get to my stage in life, and having signed up for lead magnets all of my life and not knowing what they were, that was wow. That, yeah, it's just, but what it was meant to say was all of those challenges that you described, they kind of fall into place to bring you to the aha moment when you're sat thinking, I've got this situation, I need to do something else to bring all my skills together to make it work.
absolutely. And it's funny because I went down the trap that I think a lot of us do. We download all the freebies, we go up to all the webinars, we sign up for the courses and the group programs, we invest a lot of money. And I had a whole range of experiences within that, some great and a lot not so great. And I set up an online membership site. I got 100 people in there, and it burnt me out because I was doing the thing of like overgiving and producing hours and hours of content every month and
Being
doing a
available
coffee
24
morning and
hours a
live
day
calls
with
and all
no
of these
play.
different things.
Yeah.
It was just after 18 months, we had a family health scare. A very close family member had a health diagnosis, and it was I was doing that kind of 5 o'clock club thing, waking up every morning and busy like producing resources. My daughter was 2 at the time, and like it was a busy time in life, but it was also like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I've actually hit the point where I just have to close this down. And I went back to training in schools because I was like, that's familiar, that feels safe. But I tasted this sense of freedom of not having to pack up a car full of kit, of not having to sit in traffic jams, of not being stuck in empty school staff rooms with, and when people came in, they were really grumpy and miserable. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm done. I've been in school settings. I had been in school settings for 14 years by that point, and I was like, I'm done with this season of my life. Like, I need to do something else. And like you said, the journey at the time felt somewhat like, kind of wiggly and all over the place. Like, I've gone from doing this business analysis role into teaching, and then bought the franchise, and then did the consultancy, then went online, then went back offline. Like, it feels very sort of, up and down and wiggly. But actually, when you look at it as a journey of a whole, you can actually see where the journey makes sense and where those stepping stones make sense. And really, my mission is to raise the bar and raise the standard, because I think we learn from seeing what others do, and there aren't enough good role models of what excellence looks like in terms of, online learning, online education. So really, I want to be able to create more role models for other people to learn from and go, that's what excellence looks like. And then that has that ripple effect through the industry of raising that overall standard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when you are, when you know you want to do that and you're looking around for coaches and you're looking for people to to teach you, because I knew how to plug my gaps. I knew to look for the coaches to, and I kind of done that all my life. If there was a skill that I was missing, I plugged that gap and I paid people to teach me. And unfortunately, you won't know until after you've done it that it wasn't up to par or wasn't this, it wasn't that. But I agree with you. We need more excellent role models out there, and it's kind of something that I've been passionate about, having raised two young girls. That luckily enough, I spent their lives pointing out to them that social media isn't real. This
Mm.
presented to you in this format isn't real. Someone says, "Oh, I earned 6 million in 2 days." That is not real. Always looking behind the veneer. And with the personal brand interest that I've had, it was easy for me to spot that actions didn't match words. But
Yeah.
that isn't easy for other people. And if you're very literal, or, depending on how you see the world, some people are very literal. So it was, it's, it, always had that eye on what did excellence look like? Who represented excellence for me? And I've always been in pursuit of it, I think, all my life, just to see, there's very few people I would point the finger and go, yeah, that is excellence. That is exactly what we're looking for. But for my girls, I was always looking for good role models, and I would gently drop it into conversation. Oh, that's like Michelle Obama, let's worship her for a while. I love her. And, that family, that never did anything, never put a toe out of line.
Yeah.
But, that's an extreme example. But how amazing would it be if there were people sort of a few steps ahead? And there are, and I won't embarrass them by mentioning them, but there are a few in my world. And I love that. And you're right. How fantastic would it be if there were more? And
Yes.
we could signpost our young people to these, representatives of excellence. There's a good name for a
Yeah.
membership. So if you could give yourself a piece of advice before you started on that online journey, what would it be?
I think it's belief in the skill set that you have. I didn't need to invest in a franchise business. Like, I could have easily, it was an education franchise business. Like, I could have easily done it myself. And it was just that crippling sense of self-doubt about my own capability that led down that pathway. When I went online and was consuming all this information and consuming all this content, what was that really down to? It was
Mm.
down to self-doubt and not kind of
Mhm.
trusting my own inner intuition and sense of kind of self-wisdom, I suppose. So really, I would say it's like, believe that you have the skill set there, understand the nuance of your skill set as well. One of the things that I do with clients is understanding their unique framework and actually getting to the grips of like the real nitty-gritty detail of actually what that means and finding that golden thread. And then, you know, doing the reps, taking the action, getting it done, because you can learn all you want to learn, but until you actually do stuff
Mhm.
with it,
Mhm.
it's not going to go anywhere. And they
Mhm.
say it's 10,000 hours to mastery. If it's 10,000 hours to mastery for social media, you've got a lot of content to put out there. 10,000
Absolutely.
hours for email newsletters, 10,000 hours for lead magnets. You know, you have to put in the reps.
And the rate at which people consume content is absolutely breathtaking. And just to go back to what you said about the self-doubt, my philosophy is I think we all have to go through that barrier of something that tests our belief in ourselves. And it may be, you talked about a franchise, or it may be something, for me, it was perfectionism. I was, I didn't realize that that's what it was at the time, but I was tying myself up in knots. Everything had to be perfect, and I was spending so much time doing that. But I believe I had to go through a process of doing that before I had the realization, because I was never going to draw that conclusion on my own.
Yeah,
Or I could have had the best guru in front of me saying, Amanda, this is your problem. I had to go through the pain and come out the other
yeah,
side and go, why did I do that to myself? Same as you had to sit, you had to go through that and think, I could have done that myself.
yeah,
And that proof was the only thing that was going to convince you that you had the skills, the knowledge, and the know-how to do it. And even if you'd had the best coach in the world sat in front of you, you wouldn't have believed it until you'd gone through that process. Just my take on it anyway. And I think sometimes you can say to someone, you can see it clearly, but you know that they can't, and it's
yeah,
like letting people make their own mistakes almost, isn't it? That
yeah.
is a true mother statement, isn't it?
Yeah. Let people make their own mistakes. I mean, definitely you learn more from the mistakes than you do from the
Oh,
successes, for
you do
sure.
it. And I honestly don't believe that anything is wasted. I
Yeah,
kind of try to have a philosophical approach on everything, and every single thing has something to teach you.
yeah,
And you can berate yourself for thinking, oh, is the time on that? But I don't believe that to be the case. I kind of think, well, what did it teach me? What did I learn? And there is always definitely something. But big things like you've just described, I mean, that's life changing. I don't know if you felt that afterwards,
oh yeah.
but to have that realization of I could have done that myself, that probably bolstered your confidence so much, that probably shaved years off your journey to set up your business,
Well,
in
I
a
mean, it's
better
it's
way.
really funny because when after I had that realization, once I kind of bought myself out of the franchise contract, I got fully booked in my own consultancy in 6 weeks.
Yeah. There you
And I'd
go.
been like months of like plugging away at this thing that just wasn't working. And as soon as it was like, actually, I can own it and it can be mine, then it took 6 weeks to get fully booked. But then we had the whole pandemic and the online thing, and like I think you never reach the point where it's always going to go perfectly smoothly. There's always going to be like the next journey and the
Yeah.
next challenge that you have to overcome and go, actually, I have all the skills that I need to get over this hurdle and to be able to do this thing and take the next step.
And be creative for the next challenge. But I think that's incredible. That is such social proof of your abilities and your skills to come out of that challenge and then have that evidence right in front of you. I can do it myself. Here's the social proof right in front of me. So next question is audience. How comfortable are you showing up online? Do you dance on social media? Are you comfortable with your audience? What's your approach to social media?
So I'm kind of very two-sided in this. So from the professional delivery presentation style of things, that is so ingrained in how I function. It's been 18 years of delivering training for me. Like my first postgrad job, 3 weeks in, I delivered a training in a lecture theatre to 100 people. This is like at the ripe old age of 21, you
Oh,
know?
wow. That's
And
a tall order and a half.
yeah, but it's like it's just kind of that whole delivery piece has been consistent throughout the last 18 years. Um, and then on the flip side of that, like social media, I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Hate social media.
This is
I'm
evil.
quite a private person. I don't really want to share my life with people. Um, that I find it a really odd interface to build deep connection. And you talked already about how social media is kind of full of gloss and exaggeration, smoke and mirrors, deception. And
Mhm.
I find it really jarring, social media. I can't be myself until I can have a deeper, meaningful conversation with somebody. And it's yeah. So it like I'm either presenting or I'm having deeper, meaningful conversation. And then I find this kind of bit in the middle
Yeah.
of, acting on social media quite a challenge.
No, I agree with you, and I'm trying to kind of sort of flip the script a little bit on that because for me it was, well, it always has been a necessary evil, but in terms of personal branding, I get to choose what I share. And I've realized, got this podcast, so here I am on a screen. I'm quite a private person, but I don't have to, show everything. But there's facets to my personality that I know can help people can connect with me. And running a business, there's some elements of my personality that people are going to click with. But also knowing that I can look online and see things where the values don't, the words don't match the actions and things like that, I can immediately tell when that doesn't resonate. And I can use that to my advantage and I can think, well, I won't do that, I'll do it this way. So for example, turning up on social media without having perfect hair or perfect script. So but one of the things I'll do, I will never do a video from a script. I
Yeah.
can't do it because it always looks like I'm reading the news because that's what I do in my daytime. And I've been media trained early on in my career. It's so funny because with the thing that we were taught, not to do. I was taught to sort of sit like this and stare at the camera and be very, but that's like reading the news. So one of the things was, don't do your hair, Amanda. Don't do this, don't do that. But on social media, that doesn't work. You have to be a little bit more animated, and because people get bored. So I've had to sort of cherry pick a little. But so being a bit more myself, I find a little bit harder. But I think that the capacity, the opportunities, and also the kind of getting over the fear of being judged. And the thing that I say, well, you know what? You don't pay my bills, you don't pay for the roof over my house or my children. So I've totally got over that side. But the connections and the conversations and the opportunities have far outweighed that. So I've had to sort of go from corporate to this is just me and like it or lump it, move along, keep scrolling. But the conflict, absolutely, I like you, I went through that. But you've just got to do it with what you're comfortable with, because
Yeah.
if you're not comfortable, that absolutely shows. And you can't see it sometimes, but if I'm working with a client, I can usually spot where the friction points are, and then I can kind of help them lean into where the strengths are. And weirdly, so a lot of people don't like how they talk, they don't like their accent, or they feel they have to have perfect hair or perfect makeup before they go on. And I'm just like, no, just ditch all that because we're competing with AI, we're competing with so much perfect content that if you stand out just by being yourself, and
Yeah.
that's what people want to connect with. We want to connect with the quirks, with the imperfect, with the mistakes, with the ums and the ahs and the regional accents and all of that. And hopefully getting that message across that being individual is actually the biggest strength that you have. And you can be as private or you can share as much as you want. But to get people to connect with you and your brand, that that's the holy grail really. And yeah, we've never had it's free, it's there.
Yeah.
And to get people to connect with you, I just think it's such a privilege, really, if someone sort of says, "Oh, listen to your podcast," or "Oh, sorry," and whatever. It still takes my breath away, to be honest. But I don't, you don't have to share, you know, whatever. Some people overshare.
Yeah.
Not ready to do that yet. But yeah, I see you on Facebook and things like that, and it's just nice to know the person behind, what is actually there. So, what is next for your brand? Have you got any plans for 2025?
Yeah, so really my plans for 2025 are to launch my own group thing. I have been working one-to-one with clients and now I want to get back into the doing what I teach because, there's nothing more aligned than actually role modeling what you teach to clients. So really that is my primary goal for 2025. I would also love to write a book,
Hey.
kind of like client experience handbook for online business. And I would like to run a virtual summit as well. So there's a couple of big ideas in the works, given that it's the 13th of January. Nothing has been acted on yet, but it will.
Do you know what? I mean, 12 months ago, I started my podcast. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I leave the original episodes up so you can chart my journey. I just thought, I'll do the next bit and then I'll do the next bit. And it's by no means perfect, but that's what you got to do. You just got to be fearless and do the next bit and do the next bit. And I love that. Those aims are huge, but absolutely achievable. A summit, amazing. A book, absolutely within your reach. And the membership, I think there's nothing more creative than a hive of people with a shared interest and working towards a common goal. And I thrive off that. I love it when you can, you've got an issue and you put it to the group and everyone's like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? It's just such, for me, it's such a healthy way to problem solve.
Yes.
And a lot
Yeah.
of people like that collaborative movement, but there's no one better than you, of course, to set up one of those things. We had a really good name at the start, didn't we? When we started talking,
Yeah, I'll have to watch it back. I can't remember what it was.
something about the hive
Um,
of excellence or something.
yes, it was. It was something like that.
Yeah, I'm loving that. So I would keep an eye, but definitely with the book as well. So, what legacy would you like to leave behind? That's a really tough question.
I mean, I think really from a business perspective, it is around raising the bar and raising the standard because I think the work that I do isn't just about impacting my clients, it's actually the impact that it then has on their clients and that kind of ripple effect for both immediate clients in terms of hitting their income goals, their time freedom goals, going on adventures and traveling the world and, going to the yoga class on a Friday, whatever that might look like for them. But also it's helping them to build something sustainable and their clients see lasting results as well. So really that's my business legacy. My life legacy, I haven't really thought about, to be honest. I think I just want to have fun. Have an adventure and enjoy life while we're here. They say you only live once, and like I think we need to make the most of it. I was talking to my mum, she's just turned 70, and she's of that generation where everyone waited to do the fun stuff until they retired.
Yeah.
Like you wait till you retire, you save up so that you can go traveling when you retire. You know, go and move to that house in the country when you retire. It's like, well, actually, I don't really believe that we should be holding on to those dreams and just waiting for them until we retire. Like, I think we have to enjoy life now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, my legacy is to have fun.
Yeah, actually that is such an interesting view because I've said this before in this podcast. John Lennon said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Yeah.
And that's it. You think, oh, I'll do this when I've got more time. I'll do this when I've got more money. Or I'll do that. I'll be happy when this happens.
Yes.
And yeah, I tried to do so much when my girls were growing up and they formed part of that story. And, we did this, we did that. Remember when we did this? And we tried our hardest to kind of create those memories as we were growing. And, it didn't have to be, going off on expensive holidays. They still remember the really simple things that we did. And, it didn't have to cost a load of money or whatever. It was very, very simple, very creative. But yeah, having fun, that's all kids remember, and all they want
Yeah.
is you and your
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I don't plan to leave a lot till I've retired. I just wanna I'm very simple with my with my tastes and my desires. I do like a lie-in every now and again. That keeps me happy. And
What's one
coffee.
of those?
Yeah. Lie-in and coffee and a bit of chocolate and I'll be doing okay.
Yeah.
So, well, where can we find out more about you online?
So my website is ruthtsui.com. There's not very much on there, but it's a work in progress for 2025. And I have just made the decision to ditch Meta platforms. So I have been on Facebook and I have been on Instagram, but I'm moving over to LinkedIn. So you can find me there.
LinkedIn, wonderful. So you completely ditching Instagram and Facebook.
Uh, it won't be a complete like cut off. It will be a gradual transition off. So Instagram, I put up a 12 grid with kind of 12 static posts with what I do underneath.
Uh-huh.
Facebook, I will gradually just sort of disappear from.
What about Blue Sky? Have you investigated Blue
I
Sky?
haven't actually, and a lot of people have talked about Blue Sky. Are you on it?
I went on just to claim my
Claim your name.
yeah, claim because I'm so famous. And I thought I'd check it out, but I did like the fact that there was an alternative to the others.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked, to be honest, it's a nice group of people on there,
Yeah.
while it lasts. So yeah, get your go over and get your identity on there. But it does seem to be quite a pleasant place.
Yeah. I
If you,
might give it a go. I mean, I don't think there's many Ruth Choi's around, so I'm probably be able to claim my name.
well, yeah, but it's nice to have a choice, isn't it? It's nice to have an
Yeah.
alternative. But I just thought, yeah, I'll try it and see. But no, do you know what? Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved hearing your plans, what motivated you, and I've really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a joy.